You can actually move around the title screen, which is
that's kind of
fun.
Interactive title screen, I can get behind that. So, apparently, hundreds upon hundreds of high schoolers with laser pointers have encapsulated the city.
That's basically the story of this game.
A bunch of chavs with laser pointers trying to take down planes.
You know, it's weird because it's actually a little bit tighter with the 3-button controller, but the 6-button controller allows you access to the debug menu. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this, kind of showcase the first level to you guys.
All right.
And you can let me know what you think. So laser web appears above Manhattan. City hostage to Hydra's web of fire. $1 billion ransom. Daredevil captured by supervillains.
Wouldn't a gigantic laser web that could destroy an entire city, like... Something tells me that would cost potentially $1 billion or more.
It doesn't seem like a beneficial venture.
Like, I realize that I'm trying to apply far too much logic to comics.
Yeah, don't do that. Alright, so the first thing that jumps out at me about this game is that the background always has several million things happening at any given time. It's clear that they really went for the gold on using the 32X processing power to make sure that the screen had as much crap happening as was possible at any one time. Case in point, the flickering neon sign. That's kind of a nice touch.
Yeah.
It is a little disorienting, the flickering web of fire in the background, I guess, at times, because it keeps changing colors, and for those of us with ADD, it is kind of hard to focus on the random generic bad guys you're supposed to beat the living hell out of. But on the other hand, it's nice to see, being a later title, that they worked a little harder to to take advantage of the hardware and its processing power.
Oh yeah. Now, they also went for that kind of pre-rendered look, which is, I think, semi-effective here. Like, it kind of has that Donkey Kong look about it with the pre-rendered, but it is a touch grainy.
So to back that up a little bit...
Oh, I died. Shit.
How did you die?
I pressed the web button and she didn't go.
Oops. But yeah, so there's a lot of that pre-rendered look, and it works pretty well for the most part, except that there are random textures that... And Tony jumping on fans is not helping.
When you get into a groove with this game, but if you lose your groove, it's basically you're kind of done.
It does look like there's a strong rhythm element to the way this game plays.
Yeah, you see how I played it the first time around compared to the second time?
Yeah.
So I kind of messed up and I died the second time around, but I'm trying to rush through. And as you can see, I already have like a quarter of my health.
So how are the controls, Tony?
They are a little bit slippery. They're not great. But, a lot of people complain about the controls, them being, slippery and slidey. But honestly, we did the Spider-Man in the 16-bit era 2-part episode, like a year or two back, and there are worse Spider-Man games out there.
By a wide margin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, in terms of the controls, I'd say they're about average for your Spider-Man games of the era.
There is a mountain of bad Spider-Man games.
So what you're suggesting is it really feels like the bulk of the effort was put into the graphics.
I'd say so.
I mean, that wasn't done common for the 32X because it was a powerful console for its time, so a lot of people spent their real time and trouble on trying to really show that off.
Yeah.
Which is how you get games with these nice flickering neon signs, burning... presumably project buildings in the background. I don't know how so many projects are on fire at the same time, but sure enough.
See, they're filming Death Wish 3 in the background.
Oh, so we're in Bronson, Missouri.
Yeah, and so Charles Bronson is blowing up those buildings in the background. It's completely unrelated to the Web of Fire.
So now what's happening here?
Well, basically, when you rescue Daredevil, you can enter the pause menu and have him come and assist you. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough health in that particular boss battle. But
are you fighting the children's cartoon?
Go on.
Was it Gargoyles?
Yes.
The Gargoyles. Yes, you're fighting the Gargoyles.
Yeah, so, this must be the Gargoyles.
Now, do you have any capacity to move up and down?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it's a little misleading with the way the game is arranged. It looks very much like an ISO game, but it doesn't move as one. It's a true side-scroller, just imaged up as an ISO. And I'm not completely sure how I feel about that. Because it does feel like a bit of a lost opportunity. Because otherwise, there's all this nice rendered gameplay space, but you get strictly 2 dimensions of it.
Yeah.
It feels like a waste. It seems like they lost an opportunity with that one.
Yeah, well, especially since there's a lot of beat 'em up mechanic in this.
Yeah.
For sure. So, like, being able to go up and down, kind of that Y-axis a little bit, would have been pretty cool.
It really feels like it should have had that. They just didn't for some reason. It's a little disappointing.
Dragon Man.
Choke on that, Dragon Man, apparently. Okay, so now this is more of a true 2-dimensional platformer here.
Well, watch this, though. It's good because you get to punch people's dicks.
Ooh, that's some serious
is-
dick punching. How's this level play? It looks like it's a little smoother in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a good level, but what's going to ultimately happen is that it's going to be a little bit repetitious. So there's a part that's coming up here that becomes a little bit difficult, and you'll see it in a second here. But it's one of my big complaints about this is that the level design isn't particularly inspired.
No, this feels like it's been done before. I feel like I've played this exact level in 10 different games.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I haven't played it with his brilliantly rendered backgrounds or, any number of other cool things. Because again, you have to give the background and pre-rendered graphics credit where they're due. They're very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's just that between the slightly blurry animations of the characters who are actually, the guy you were playing and the bad guys, a lot of that's pretty forgettable. And
How did I die?
You ran into an electric fence while you had no health.
Oh, shit. Okay.
the first thing that jumps out at me is you're right. The controls are a little loose and not outrageously well connected to the character.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is that there's a lot of motion blur on the movement. It's really, really hard to know exactly where he's going to quit running.
Yeah.
It's already causing me some trouble fighting these random dicks because I keep trying to run to the one side of the one and then not succeeding and I'm on fire. No, I'm not on fire.
He's also, Spider-Man's also strangely fast. He gets into a sprint. So oftentimes, when I first played this level, I would sprint right into those electrical, things, like those generators or whatever they are, and I would just be going so fast that I didn't realize I was about to run into them.
Yeah, the only times I see spiders actually run that fast is when you find one of those little zebra jumping spiders and you chase it with your finger, and it keeps looking at you and then running away and going hop, hop, and then trying to get away.
Yes.
So it's very inaccurate to a spider.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with the whole thing is that the controls for the character are much, much too fast.
They're jumpy. Yeah, they're real jumpy.
It's legitimately, ow, I've been zapped.
Yeah, that's what I ran into.
Help.
See how you get stuck there?
And I'm stuck in wall climb.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the other problem I'm running into is that that if you get close enough to a vertical flat surface, it assumes you want to climb it because it's a Spider-Man game and it's assumed that you always want to climb everything forever, which is cool and all because it's a little more seamless than most of the 32 or 16-bit Spider-Man we played. But it does interfere with gameplay a little bit because with or without your permission, it's going to happen.
Yeah, to be fair, the other Spider-Man games do this a lot too. I mean, Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin for the Sega CD, that's the best one I've seen.
Yeah.
In the 16-bit era, and I'm just going to lump this into the 16-bit era because it's 16-bit style, right? It is connected to a Genesis, after all, even though it is on the 32X.
I mean, it's the nicest of the 16-bit era, but still.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that early Genesis version, also the Sega CD version, probably did it the best, and it still had issues where occasionally you'd get stuck on a wall that you didn't want to get stuck on. Really, there should have been a button to disengage from the wall. You know what I mean?
And the problem is here you don't have it, so once you're stuck on the wall, you have to walk to one end or the other and make a point of leaving the wall.
Yeah.
Which does regularly interfere with gameplay.
And that is a pretty common thing throughout almost all Spider-Man games, is that the wall climbing and swinging are often extremely frustrating and cause issues elsewhere in gameplay.
I do like how Spider-Man kind of fights like a boxer in this. He has like a
Yeah.
1-2 uppercut,
Yeah.
which I think is kind of neat. I've never seen a Spider-Man game
God
that
damn
does
it!
that.
And there's that climbing mechanic again.
exactly.
Actively interfering with the basic gameplay.
Let's reset. I'm going to show you guys the debug menu, and there's going to be a lot
Alright.
of different options there. So one thing that you can do, now this game's a little bit difficult, right?
Yeah.
So one saving grace is that it has a debug menu. And basically what you do on the start screen is that you press up, right, left, A, Z, Y. And this does a couple of different things. You can press Z to rejuvenate your lives and your daredevils. And Daredevil does that screen clearing move. You can see where you are in the level by pressing Y.
And you can also see through at the bottom into a super glitched out
That's right.
thingy.
If you press X, you have a level select.
Whoa.
Now, not only do you have a level select, but you also have a logo select, and you can see all the different newspapers that you get by beating the levels.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool.
So we can actually skip ahead to wherever we want. So, you know, you're like, all right, well, the game's kind of cheating. The game has slightly loose controls. It's a little bit difficult. Well, okay, I'm just going to pick the level that I want to pick, and I'm just going to refill my lives.
Yeah.
Where did Bridge 1 go?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Let's start beta questing.
That was London Bridge. It fell down.
That's right.
So apparently in downtown New York, there is a burning oil rig at some point. Well, that's exciting.
This is probably the Bronx or just New Jersey, you know.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I'd build a web of fire over New Jersey too.
I like how you can't even see the web of fire in this. It's just fire.
Yeah, that's right.
Oil refineries totally look like this. They like just random uncontrolled heat, right?
Yeah, it's totally cool.
And Daredevil just annihilates him.
Yeah, it's that the speed of his running that really throws this game off, because it's the rest of the animations have a moderate pace and it all kind of puts together, but then Spider-Man himself moves at like 500 miles an hour.
I know, look at this.
I
Look at
get
a
it.
straight shot.
I get it. Is he mostly blue? Does he have red shoes? Is it a Sega console?
There it is.
That's it.
Sonic.
Yeah, they got us.
But seriously, look at this running. I mean, like, holy crap. Like,
I mean,
fast.
I mean, we understand he got to go fast, but like that's a lot of going fast.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, like, you're basically Sonic.
I'm not overwhelmed by the gameplay, which is a pity because the graphics in the whole thing are quite enjoyable. It's if the controls were a little better and Spider-Man didn't run at 300 to 500 miles an hour, this would be a pretty enjoyable experience in a lot of ways.
There are likable things about this game.
Yes.
I'd say for sure.
Yeah. It's not fair to pan the game completely. It's just fair to say that the controls really do get in the way of enjoying it.
Yeah.
I would say this is one of the stronger Spider-Man games I've played.
Agreed.
But I mean, much of that comes from like Marvel being like, sure, LJN, you can have the license to this.
Yeah. Well, look at the amount of bubbles in the background.
Yeah.
I know this is like, who cares, right? But like, there's a lot moving in the background.
And
Yeah,
that's the
but-
thing is every background has a lot going on in it, and it's worthy of note because it's an exceptionally clever inclusion for the time. It's just, I wish they hadn't let it get in the way of the gameplay.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, they did at times because, well, with things like the non-toggleable wall climbing, which in this particular instance is probably a good thing because it's just wall climbing the game.
Yeah.
The thing is that it was clear the focus at most times was more about, setting up the backgrounds and setting up these clever, fun to look at shots than it was the actual gameplay.
I think more stuff like this would be interesting in the game because that has a kind of a 3D effect, right?
Yeah.
And you can jump on those and like they move you around. Like that is a good example of them using the background and foreground for the gameplay, but it just is very rare that you see something like that.
That's the problem is that there was a big promise attached to it. It just
Yeah.
didn't get delivered on frequently.
If you take a look at the level design here, it's basically just the same thing. You're climbing up this massive structure. right?
And to boot, everywhere you're trying to go is highlighted in green to save you from having to think for yourself about it for too long.
Yeah, but it's like, for example, you're basically doing the same thing. You're crawling around this like jigsaw sort of structure, right? But this should have been like 2 or 3 levels worth, like as in stories, stories of a building.
Yeah.
You do this 2 or 3 times, and then you're at a different place. You've been doing this for 10 minutes.
Exactly, and just now am I actually free of this.
Yeah. This is the last level, by the way.
Oh, so I'm about to die terribly because...
You
Use the Daredevil.
Use the Daredevils.
All right.
Press start, and then Daredevil it up.
So at the very end
She
of
just
this
got
level,
dunked on.
once you beat the last boss, there's a timer, and you have to like desperately get to the end
Did I just
within
kill it?
50 seconds. Yeah, and if you don't, you just die.
Oh.
And I've tried it.
So kind of like the end of Super Metroid.
Yeah, so I tried it 3 times, and I couldn't get to the end.
So here's the problem.
You're
They
supposed
haven't...
to punch through that wall.
Okay. See, they don't do a good job of making any major part of that clear, so you're just
Yeah.
like, oh.
Well, by this point, you've punched through a number of walls and floors
Well, you
and
see-
stuff, but
There's also no timer.
not yet. That isn't the last
famously.
boss.
Oh, okay. So the big thing I'm struggling with here is that I can basically just kind of cheat my way across the level because, well, I don't want to bother to actually interact with any of the things they've put here.
Yeah.
And you're fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I mean, it's nice that being Spider-Man you get to use a little bit of that. I just wish that it wasn't like a replacement for playing the game.
Yeah.
Wait,
So you'll have very little
this
time.
person is the last boss.
Yes.
Just a standard NPC from any other level.
One of the big problems too with the enemies and the NPCs is that they're kind of like punch sponges. So you notice in some of the ship
Kind of like a
levels,
Bethesda game.
yes, we were just like punching and punching and punching and punching and punching, and just screw it, I'll use Daredevil like to clear the room, and
Bonk.
it's just like it's not fun when you
No.
just have to sit there and punch them forever. There's no strategy here,
No, the thing is, like, as a boss fight, it's really uninspired because you're just like, yeah, I just have to punch this tool until you're dead, and it's just not... There's no particular strategy to it. You don't have to, like, come up with anything clever. You just have to hit them more times than they hit you.
Yeah.
Or in the case of me, I have to make Daredevil hit them more times than they're going to hit me. Or until I can hit Y again, and, it's...
Yeah, think about Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. Every boss was very different. Now,
Yeah.
if you take a look at that gargoyle boss that I fought at the beginning, yeah, he flew around, he bounced around a little bit, just standard.
But you were
first
just
boss.
punching him.
But I was just
Whenever he'd
punching
stop, you'd run up and punch him. Or you'd web punch,
Yeah.
punch. Just to give that little, like, slight stun.
Oh, and I've beaten the guy, so now through here we go.
I would start web slinging as soon as you can.
All up in
see?
web snappers. Is this poor
Yeah.
level design?
So my
Gee,
point
this room
is
again.
that almost every boss had a slightly different pattern and tactic in Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin for the Sega CD. Okay, the bosses do not have different tactics for the most part. Like, they don't have different patterns. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I gotta memorize the pattern. When is he gonna hit me? When am I safe? When am I not safe? Those don't happen. It's just like it's a barroom brawl. Every
At
boss
best.
is a ballroom brawl. Yeah, there's no way you're gonna.
And there's that hill climb or that wall climbing mechanic getting in the way again.
Yeah.
Because if you just walk too close to the wall, it's understood that you are trying to see that, and
You need a web sling.
I'm trying. I just keep getting too close to flat surfaces, which apparently means I want to. Well, I'm dead.
Yeah, I think that's probably enough for.
I like how they don't even
like-
show you, like, blowing up or anything.
Just like, yeah,
that.
nah.
And restart. And that's it.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our full Web of Fire review. Links are on screen and also in the description below. We'll see you guys next time.